Our childhood has been full of movies and shows. But through all of these, one series seemed to have a different atmosphere on this topic. The feeling of emptiness, insecurity, and anxiety has been passed through many situations throughout our childhood. Perhaps even without you noticing. But due to the fact that the topic of the backrooms and liminal spaces gets more attention than ever, I want to show you guys where the origins of these places begin. The episode begins with SpongeBob and Patrick being very happy after visiting Love World. They're waiting for the bus, and after it arrives, they get in. Sadly, SpongeBob can't find any money in his pocket. Meanwhile, the bus driver gets slapped multiple times by SpongeBob's balloon. After being mad, he just tells SpongeBob to take a seat. And as the bus starts driving, SpongeBob and Patrick realize they're in the wrong bus. Not only that the bus driver throws them out of the bus, in the middle of nowhere, SpongeBob and Patrick see a sign implementing the word rock bottom. After exploring the place for a bit, they realize that the fish look a lot different than the Bikini Bottom. Also, there's a certain emptiness and the feeling that a few fish don't really seem to speak the same language as them. The idea of SpongeBob and Patrick being in a world they can't understand has a cool twist, and SpongeBob and Patrick's world is turned upside down. They don't know how to deal with the changes. We can see Patrick going nuts, and in rock bottom, nothing is fair. Even though SpongeBob is on the right place at the right time, Patrick catches the bus, but SpongeBob doesn't. And soon after the balloon of SpongeBob has been carried away by the wind, he comes up to the bus station and realizes everyone and everything that was around him is now gone. Truly, completely alone. And this feeling of loneliness is displayed in the ambience. Even the young audience, or perhaps my generation, can remember this episode pretty clearly. Of course it was a little bit scary, but it was also a kids show. Anyways, moving to our next case. One of the darkest episodes in SpongeBob is SB129, and we've also covered this episode in a different video. Squidward runs away from SpongeBob and Patrick and locks himself inside a freezer for over 2000 years. He wakes up in the future and uses a time travel machine to go back home. After a lot of stops, he gets frustrated and breaks down the lever. And there he finds himself inside the emptiness. If you think about it, many shows try to cover up what happens if you time travel, and even using the grandfather paradox. But none of them really use the concept of what lies beyond the linear timeline. In this episode, SpongeBob used this for a form of nihilistic and meaningless sense. Some people even theorize Squidward dying in a time machine, and to be honest, if you think about the pressure that's going on in that room, that probably wouldn't even be that far off. But it's not only the theory of the episode, but more how it showed up for the audience. Mainly consisting of children, this did have a weird feeling on the first watch. It really seemed like the whole episode is used to display loneliness, just like in Rock Bottom. We even see the short of Squidward saying the word alone over and over again. From being a relief, it turns into fear, and this really tries to point out. For me personally, it did have a powerful effect on how I see the show nowadays, but what do you think? Now, this is a short one, but I thought it's worth mentioning. Here we see SpongeBob sleeping in his bed and dreaming. He realizes that he can jump from dream to dream and gets curious what his friends are dreaming. We actually get to see a lot of different dreams and a lot of different thoughts of some people, but usually they all end the same. SpongeBob ruins the fun for everyone. But this isn't the point I'm trying to make here. It really gets strange when SpongeBob jumps into the dream of Gary. The pure atmosphere of this room, and on the top of that, we get to see Gary in a humanoid form. Kind of weird if you ask me, but he's actually a pretty chill guy. It is a little bit scary, but it's one of my favorite episodes, and compared to the episodes we already mentioned and are about to mention, this doesn't really stand out. This is kind of an episode that doesn't really make a lot of sense. It follows Squidward having a bad day. He needs some space to put down his clarinet because he likes to play it at work. Mr. Krabs pulls out his old Navy locker and realizes there's an old corpse inside it. And perhaps this is even why weird things are about to happen. Anyway, Squidward dumps in his clarinet inside the locker and realizes the locker is giant. He follows SpongeBob's laugh and puts away curtains to find himself inside a mysterious world of clarinets. Clarinet Land. Is this even a real world or just imagination in the SpongeBob universe? Pure emptiness and buildings who all seem to look the same. Not a single person inside. And if this all isn't enough, a giant eagle's head appears and says he's the keeper of these lands. After eating Squidward, this is where the episode gets really weird. Squidward starts to chase SpongeBob down the stomach of the eagle and lands in a circus house full of scary clarinets. Then Patrick takes him, warns him about some pressure. In the end, Squidward wakes up in his locker. It's kind of a weird episode because it shows all Squidward can do is run away from his troubles and problems. The universes inside the locker seem to have a great impact on him. This is an episode a lot of people actually have covered up, but I think it displays this effect the best. It's a windy day in Bikini Bottom. SpongeBob realizes that the holes in his body produce a sound when hit by the wind. This sound attracts the jellyfish and they start dancing around him, up to a point where it gets annoying and they start attacking him. SpongeBob runs away, but there is no escape from the jellyfish, and he finds himself inside a cave. The loneliness inside the cave doesn't seem to help him, and it seems like he's spent a lot of time in this cave. After making a stone copy of himself, it gets concerning, but he realizes the copy also makes a sound. So what does he do? He builds multiple statues of himself and puts them in a circle. A weird and scary attraction to watch actually, but the jellyfish start ignoring the real SpongeBob, and he manages to run away. It seems like everyone he knows has already passed away, and everything that's left is just he by himself. The episode has a dramatic ending, and guys, this is a kids show. I was legitimately scared of this episode. Like, stop it. So, this guy, your everyday tourist, made actually a really good video about this. He's talking about the end screen of every episode and why this end screen made us feel so lonely. I can totally agree with this, and I suggest you go watch his video. Anyways, I will show you a few places inside the SpongeBob universe I find really interesting because they display this feeling of loneliness and this liminal space paradox just too well. Anyways, enjoy, and we see us in the next video.